So I was watching a video the other day. It was with Alex Hormozi and Tony Robbins. And I'll be honest, I didn't watch the full video. It wasn't horribly interesting to me. I like videos that are about like tactics or about like strategies or very objective things. It felt more like a coaching session or a little bit like a therapy session, which is totally okay, but just something that I'm not super interested in watching. But there were some insights that I got from the video that I wanted to share with you. And one of the main things, by the way, if you don't know who Alex Hormozi or Tony Robbins are, Google them. Alex Hormozi, super popular. I don't want to call him a YouTuber because he's more than that, but entrepreneur. He owns a business called acquisition.com. Just go look him up. He's very popular. Same with Tony Robbins. If you don't know who he is, look him up. Very popular guy. He's been coaching for decades at this point. He might be a billionaire, if not very close to it, but very popular in the self-help and improvement space. So they're doing a podcast together. I'm watching it. And at one point, early-ish in the video, I would say maybe about 20 minutes in or so, Alex Hormozi kind of talks about, I'm paraphrasing, but he talks about purpose, and he feels like he doesn't quite have the same purpose as he used to, and he's not basically being fulfilled. And so Tony Robbins gives a very long answer, but essentially the answer was do more things that are outside of yourself. Like, do more things to donate to charity, do more things where you're supporting these groups of people, whatever. And I thought that was fantastic. But it made me think about something I've noticed with Alex Hormozi. And this is not a criticism toward Alex Hormozi, because I've noticed this with lots of people who are wealthy or higher status or just flat out rich. And it's a lesson I've learned several times over. It's something that I think about a lot. And watching this video reaffirmed the beliefs that I already had. And so essentially what this is don't make your life about money. And I say this, and this sounds super, maybe for some people, obvious, but I bring this up because most people spend their entire lives chasing money, or they spend their entire lives chasing status. My perspective on money and status and wealth as a whole, this is something I learned a few years ago, and this is something that to me has held true ever since, is you chase these things while understanding that they're a means to an end. But you got to figure out what the end game is in the first place. And I think that's where most people go wrong. Most people spend their entire lives just trying to chase money. They want money. They're like, oh, I need to work, I need to grind, I need to become a millionaire, I need to become a billionaire. And you sit there and ask, like, why do you want these things? And they can't give you a clear answer, which to me, whenever I have these conversations with people or when I hear people talk like this, to me, they don't have a real reason to want those things besides getting those things because other people have told them that those things are worth having. Hopefully that makes sense. It's kind of like if there was a brand new, say, sports car on the market, and maybe you're not a car guy, but maybe you're a dude, and maybe you see other girls like dudes with that car. You'd be the kind of guy who's like, oh, I want that sports car. Why do you want that sports car? You're not even a car guy. Oh, I want the car, maybe out loud, or maybe you consciously don't know it, but the real reason is because you want the validation from the girl because you want the girl, right? And that's stupid. Like, bluntly, that's stupid. It's stupid to chase money because other people are chasing money and because other people told you you should chase money. It's stupid to want the car because the girl likes the guy that wants the car. That's also stupid. It's stupid to do things because other people tell you that those things are worth doing. I believe, and this is something that I've personally concluded, you got to figure out what works best for you. You got to figure out what you want out of your life, and you got to figure out the best way to achieve those things that you want. Now, money is probably going to be a way to get those things, but it's not the end game in itself. Once you get the money, you use the money to get the end result. And a lot of people, and I'm saying this about Alex Hormozi, I don't know him personally, so I could be completely wrong, but based on the things I've heard him say in other videos and based on this Tony Robbins video, this is kind of the take I have. Again, no shade to him. I love his content. I love him as one can love someone who they've never met before, who gives great advice. Just my 2 cents. I think he spent so much time working on trying to make money, which he's very skilled at, that he forgot that life is more than just money. That's my 2 cents. And I think him and people like him use money as a distraction to not feel bad about their current situation. Their current situation being they haven't figured out what they want out of life. I say this because in my personal life right now, I want money. I do chase money, but I don't chase money for the point of having lots of money. I chase money to get a certain type of lifestyle that money affords me. And it goes beyond this idea of like getting cars, getting houses. I'm married, but getting gifts, getting like vacations. I don't care about any of that stuff really in the grand scheme of things. I do care, but I don't care about it that much. What I personally have come to like is things like art, things like music, things like just learning new skills, things like learning multiple languages. These are the things that I think are the most fulfilling for me. I would like to wager that for most people, these things are probably super fulfilling. But for me in particular, these things are extremely fulfilling. If I could have $1 billion or $1 million or like a couple 100,000 in the bank right now, and that would be enough to keep me from having to go work on Productivity Accelerator or other things, or if I had to work as little as possible on those things, I would do it in a heartbeat. Why? Because the pursuit of art or the pursuit of music or the pursuit of self-fulfillment through learning different languages, through meeting new people, meeting new cool people, things like that, are the end game in itself. They're worth it. Like, to me, if you're gonna have money, the best thing to do with the money is spend it on things that just enhance the quality of your life. And I really want to make this clear. I'm not talking about cars. I'm not talking about houses. Those things really don't matter in the grand scheme of things. If you really sat there and like objectively thought about it, none of those things matter. I had this conversation with my wife a lot because she wants to get a house. And I say to her, why do you want to get a house? And she says, well, and I'm paraphrasing, what she says, but it's along the lines of, I want to get a house because society tells me that that's the thing to do at a certain age. Society says like, this is what success looks like, getting a house, getting the family that looks a certain way, getting the white picket fence, the American dream, so to speak. I personally think all that is bullshit. And I'm going to be completely honest. I think it's bullshit. I think it's horrid. I think it's just something that you're told to pursue to make America and to make society better. Not better in the sense that it's like morally better, things like that, economically better. You're told to do those things because it makes society economically better and it makes society economically prosperous. Go layer one with me because we can argue about that as well. But that's the reason why those things are pushed. Those things don't make you happy. You've been sold the illusion, you've been sold the lie that those things will make you happy because you're living your life through the lens of other people around you. You're living your life through the lens of people you never have met, you never will meet, who do not care about you, who are trying to chase the exact same things for themselves for these other illusory people that do not exist that they'll also never meet. Does that make sense? Like when you sit there and think about it, it's so strange. So she says, oh, I want to buy a house because it's what society tells us to do. It's going to make me feel like we have a real family, like we're really achieving something. But then to me, and this is something I learned from studying philosophy, the best thing to do when you really want to get to the conclusion of something, if you really want to understand how something works, is break it down into its most core components. Reduce it to first principles, so to speak, or reduce it to something as simply as possible. So an example of this, you want to buy a car. What is a car? A car is just a box with wheels that get you from point A to point B. That's a car. That's a car. A Rolls Royce is a car that costs a lot of money that people perceive to be better that gets you from point A to point B. Car. I have a Chevy Camaro. My Chevy Camaro, slightly better than a Honda or a Toyota basic car, whatever. Its sole purpose, it's a box that gets me from point A to point B. A Toyota, Honda, one of those buggy type cars, whatever. What's its purpose? It's a box that helps you get from point A to point B. What's the purpose of a car? To help you get from point A to point B. So if the car fulfills that purpose, then that's really all that matters, right? Do you need a Rolls Royce is my point? No, you don't need a Rolls Royce. Does anyone care that you have a Rolls Royce? Sure, it can help you get more money, it can help you get more status, and those things are perfectly fine. But in the grand scheme of things, does it matter? No, it doesn't. If your goal is not to just be a dude with a Rolls Royce, then getting a Rolls Royce makes no difference. If you're the kind of dude whose goal is not just to have a Chevy Camaro, then having a Chevy Camaro makes no real difference, right? As long as the thing gets you from point A to point B, that's what matters. What's a house? A house is just a place where you live. That's really what it comes down to. What is it like? That's a house. A house is some place you stay inside to keep you protected from the environment around you, from the cold. It's snowing. It was snowing yesterday. From the environment, from the extreme heat, from the animals or the predators or the creeps of the world, or whatever. That's it. It's a place where you can sleep peacefully and comfortably. That's a house. What's an apartment? The exact same thing. What's a tiny house in the middle of nowhere? The exact same thing. Like they're all the exact same thing. So you don't need to have a mansion. You don't need to have a giant townhouse. You don't need to have, a 7-bedroom, $4.5 million single family house out in Leesburg, whatever. You don't need those things. If those things help you get to your end game, which should be fulfillment, which you should understand for you, what that fulfillment looks like, then sure, get those things. But if your goal is simply to chase money or to chase wealth or to chase status for the sake of it, I think it's a losing game. And I bring this up too because when I was in college, I was reading a lot about like wealth and money and finances, and I kept coming across these stories about people who are millionaires. And I'm not saying this is true of all people who are millionaires, but I've seen for a decent amount of people consistently who make a higher income, this kind of becomes the route they take. You make the money and you didn't think about why you're making the money in the first place. You made the money because maybe you were comfortable. You made money maybe because you wanted to compare yourself to other people and you wanted to feel better about yourself. You might make the money because you feel insecure, but you're using the money as a coping mechanism for the fact that your life isn't the way you want it to be. You think the money's going to be the thing that changes your life, when in reality, understanding what your life should be about, understanding what the end game for your life is the thing that's going to make your life more fulfilled. Does that make sense? You see people, and I kind of deviated slightly in those previous sentences, but I'd read books about people like, I think the founder of Victoria's Secret started Victoria's Secret and eventually he unalived himself. I don't know if I'm allowed to say the word that starts with an S. Hopefully you understand what I'm alluding to, but he unalived himself. And I've seen this with many people who have lots of money, who still live really terrible lives, horrible lives. Like horrible in the sense that you probably would only trade the money with them. You wouldn't trade their lifestyles with them because their lifestyles are horrendous. Their family situation's horrendous. Their social circle's horrendous. Everyone's a backstabber. Everyone's a manipulator. They don't know what they want out of life. They think the money was the solution to all their problems, when in reality, the money probably just solved like one problem that they might not have needed that much money to solve. They didn't need to become a millionaire to solve that problem. They could have had an average, modest income and solved those money problems. And the other bigger problems would have taken a lot more time and effort, and really a lot of contemplation, a lot of self-reflection to get to the bottom to and to really understand and to really fix. But they skipped that step. They just did the money part, which is hard. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's not easy. I'm not saying it's not worth mentioning. I'm not saying it's not noteworthy. That's not what I'm trying to say. The point that I'm just making is that I see a lot of people chase money and they chase the money and the money's unfulfilling. But I think the pursuit of money in itself is an unfulfilling process. If you're chasing money solely for the sake of chasing money, if you're chasing money solely for the sake of buying things, if you're chasing money solely to keep up with the Kardashians or keep up with the Joneses or look better than the people around you or be better than your peers, it's a losing game no matter what. It's going to be extremely unfulfilling because money is just a means to an end. It's not the end in itself. So that's kind of the purpose of this video. Watching Alex Hormozi, just things about him that I always thought were true felt more true in that video. I've talked about this in other videos, but one of my philosophies about like taking advice, this applies to me too. If you're watching me right now, this applies to me as well. Take what I say with a grain of salt. But my advice for taking people's opinions and listening to advice is you be careful with taking people's advice. Listen the most closely to the people whose lives you're most willing to trade with. And when I say most willing to trade with, I'm talking about every aspect. Because some people try to like game the system, so to speak, and I'll ask them like, oh, Warren Buffett, are you willing, if you don't know who Warren Buffett is, he's a super billionaire, very old dude. I think he's like 90s at this point, like late 80s, maybe 90s. I would ask him, are you willing to trade with, say, for example, Warren Buffett? Because you're talking to someone who might be in their 20s. They might be like, dude, if I had like $1 billion, my life would be so much better. Cool. Would you trade your $5 in your bank account right now and your life with Warren Buffett? On the surface, they say yes, because they're thinking only of the money. But again, like I mentioned earlier in the video, life's not just about money. When I say trade with Warren Buffett, I'm saying like swap places. Like you become the same age as Warren Buffett, you get into the exact same shape Warren Buffett is right now, and you get his money as a result, but you have to live his lifestyle as well. If Warren Buffett's whole day consists of maybe just reading for 5 hours a day, talking to nobody, maybe doing some meetings with business partners, going home, maybe spending time with his wife a little bit. I don't know if he's actually married or if his wife is alive still. I don't really know. But whatever his day looks like, you got to trade all of it, 100%. Are you willing to do that? And a lot of people say no. And I say, why do you say no? Well, because he's old. Well, because I don't like his lifestyle. Okay, cool. So you know deep down that money's not the only thing that matters. You understand this. Because if money was the only thing that mattered, if it was the highest thing that you cared about the most, you wouldn't mind being old if it made you $1 billion. Because time wouldn't mean that much to you. Your social circle wouldn't mean that much to you. Your lifestyle wouldn't mean that much to you. But it does. So money's not the thing you want. I do this experiment, people, and because to me it helps people really understand like what their values are in life and what's actually important to them. And I think for a lot of people, it's a good way to help you figure out if you really should be chasing money or if you should be chasing something else. And when I say chase, don't look at it negatively. I'm not using it like in a negative connotation. When I say chase, I'm just talking about like pursue with a lot of aggression or pursue with a lot of passion or pursue with a lot of effort or energy. That's what I mean when I say like chase. Should you be doing those things? For plenty of people, the answer is probably no. If you're Alex Hormozi, you might have money. Do you need to have acquisition.com? Does the goal of becoming the most jacked billionaire matter? Does the goal of being a billionaire matter? Does making more money do anything for your life? Probably not. Honestly, like for all of the above, probably not. I mean, someone has said before in the past, and I think I kind of deviated again, but hopefully, this video is not super like overly complicated and all over the place. Somebody asked me, would you trade places with Alex Hormozi? And I said, no, of course not. Why would I do that? I have thought about what I want for my life. Alex Hormozi only has one thing, and that's money. Actually, his size too. I'd probably want to be as big as him. He's a pretty big dude, it looks like. But also, I've heard he's shorter than me, so I don't want his height. And that's not a big deal. Obviously the height thing is not a big deal. But again, the point that I'm making is that I would only trade his money. But you can get money. So his life to me is not that admirable. So I listen carefully to the advice he gives. Now, when it comes to purely business stuff, I love it. I think it's fantastic. I think it's great. I think he's a great business owner. I think he's a great business person. I listen to that. Everything else in life, I don't listen to because his lifestyle is not interesting to me. Like if I could choose the type of day that I would want for myself, I'd wake up at 5, I'll probably work in the morning because I like to work. I genuinely like to work. It gives me like almost like a mental high. Like I like doing things that stimulate my mind. Working to me stimulates the mind. If it's meaningful work, if it's bullshit work, if it's just something to keep busy, I don't like that. If it's things that feel purposeless or pointless or it feels like it's not progressing towards something tangible or concrete, I do not like that. But if someone says to me, oh, you get to work on this project, and if we do this project, a lot of people will be happy, it'll mean a lot to a lot of people, it'll lead to some tangible benefits down the line, yeah, I love it. And to me, by the way, work is not just like working in a business. It's not just working at a 9 to 5. It's not working in a company. Work to me is just anything that requires mental stimulation and effort. That's work. Working out the gym to me is work. Drawing is work. I'm creating a comic book. That's work to me because it takes a lot of time to script the chapters, come up with what the character's going to say, come up with the designs of the characters, come up with the settings, the locations. So I have to do research on the settings or locations. That requires effort too. It's a big process. Actually drawing the damn thing, doing the sketches, referring back to your concept art, making the concept art. These are all very time intensive, very energy heavy, mental effort heavy tasks and activities. I love it. I would do that in the morning. I'd work out, of course, probably work out first, then do the work afterwards, whatever my work is. And then probably spend the rest of my time, if I had lots of money, just hanging out with cool people. Like if I could meet new people that were cool, I would spend a couple hours doing that. And then at night, just spend more time with people who I know who are cool. And to me, the reason why I personally want money is because I understand that for a lot of people, money's not going to be the thing. Money's the thing that holds people back. I'll do another video about how I learned that lesson about how money and time is one of these two things you have to kind of get for yourself and help other people get. So that way you can live your ideal life because your ideal life requires other people. I'll do a video maybe right after this talking about that. But the rest of my time and the rest of the day, I would hang out with people who I know, who I'm comfortable with, who I'm close with, understanding that they might not have as much money as me. So I would just buy things on their behalf. Like, oh, dude, I got this. I was talking to my friend about this the other day. I remember like back when I was a kid, one of the most fun experiences was sitting on a couch with your buddies playing video games. sounds childish. You know, society makes things sound worse than they are. Society's like, oh, it's childish, as if they want to shame people for having fun and just enjoying life. It's such a stupid concept. It was fun. It still is fun. The problem is people get too busy. Why do people get too busy? Because they need to make money. Well, if you could solve people's money problems by just paying for things for them, without them hopefully taking advantage of you, would you probably have as much fun as you did when you were a kid? Hell yeah. Would you probably have more fun? Hell yeah, because you have more freedom. So I was talking to my friend and I was like, hey, you know, I was thinking about getting like this video game and it's co-op and you can come over and we would just get like a bunch of buddies and play like 4-player mode, the shooting game. It's called Borderlands, by the way. I was thinking about playing that. If I had more time and if he had more time and if other people I knew had more time, perfect experience. Everything I listed, wake up in the morning, work, meet someone brand new, spend the rest of the time with my buddies playing video games at night, whatever. Perfect day. Obviously, you don't have to do that every day. If you have other obligations, if you're a father, you know, mother, whatever, hopefully you get the point that I'm making. That's what the money solves. Hopefully you understand. That's the point that I'm trying to make out of this video. You got to know what your end game is for the money to matter to you. If you don't know where you're heading, money is going to be insignificant at some point. It'll be good in the short term, but it's not going to be fulfilling. It's not going to be satisfying. And again, this is just my 2 cents. This is just my theory. I'm not there yet. I'm not like any multimillionaire. I'm not a billionaire. I'm not even close to any of those things. These are just my 2 cents. But they're my 2 cents based on talking to people who are in these situations, observing people who are in these situations, reading about people who are in these situations, watching podcasts, watching videos, watching content of people who more or less seem to be in these situations. It seems consistent. And I feel like you can just kind of take a step back and think about humans as a whole, think about the way humans think. And from that perspective as well, it also makes sense. So I guess the overall purpose of the video, the overall message that I want to share with you is stop chasing money, stop chasing wealth, stop chasing status. They are good tools to get the things you want out of life, but understand that they're only tools to get the things you want out of life. If your goal is to simply have a hammer for the sake of having a hammer, it's quite a stupid goal. I'm going to be real with you. If your goal is to have a saw, solely to possess a saw, and you're not going to cut anything, it's pretty stupid. It defeats the purpose of having the thing in itself. The same is true with money. It's a tool. It's a means to an end. Understand what the end is first, then the tool will matter that much more. Hopefully this video made sense. If it did, please click the like button. I can't talk right now, I'm slurring. Click the like button, leave a comment below if this video resonated with you or if you disagree. I'm happy to see disagreements. I actually love disagreements because it helps me review my perspectives on things. Leave a comment below either way. Share this video with somebody who might benefit from this. And until next time, I'll see you in the next video. Peace out. Bye.